Hi, I'm Greer Dellinger, and I'm a freshman here at William Jewell. And my major is biochemistry. And I'm from Loveland, Colorado, but I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia. So I believe diversity is having a variety of different perspectives in any situation. So that could be, diversity in gender, diversity in sexuality, and particularly diversity in race. And I would describe the diversity on this campus as certainly lacking. There's not a single black person on the floor that I live in my residence hall, which is not something I even noticed until literally 20 minutes ago, because it's so ingrained in me to not notice white privilege, because I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, deep in the South. I was Southern Baptist. My church was almost entirely white. My family was upper middle class, and I remember actually truly believing that my family were good people because we had black friends. One whole family of black friends that we knew, that we met when I was in middle school. So I think the perspective that I can bring to this video is not a very unique one, because there are a lot of people who have come from a situation that is very similar to mine, where they're white children, basically, who start to grow up and realize that, oh, there are other races who are being marginalized and pushed down by our parents and our grandparents, and the long history that this country has with racism and oppression. And my perspective is one of somebody who's trying to figure out what to do about it. And there's not much that I can do right now, because we definitely, in the US, we do have the right to peaceful protest, but peaceful protest doesn't really get much done, because people like to say that protesters are crazy or the far ends of the spectrum, and like to dismiss them because they think not enough people have that opinion. But I think that if enough people have that opinion that they can go out and protest and risk jail time, or risk being fired from their jobs, or risk condemnation from their families, I think that's enough people to make a point. Okay. I think that, well, there's three things I think that I would like to say. First, that if you are a white person who thinks that there is not a problem because you haven't heard about it, that is only because you're not looking, or because people have brought it up to you and you refuse to see. It's not because it's not out there. It's because you don't have the practice finding it. The second thing is that the William Jewell curriculum, while it has, at least in the classes that I'm in CTI 100, it has made strides towards diversity somewhat. The fact that the only novel, or the only book from an African perspective, is a novel by a woman, you've got your two little check boxes there, compared to 3 books by white men or men of privilege, which are all presented as academic sources, that's not a good thing, and that doesn't count as diversity. And a third thing, there is a very high number of white men and white women on this campus. There's a high number of white men and white women in positions of authority on this campus. There is a high number of white men and white women in positions of authority in this town, in this area, in this state. And I read a really interesting statistic earlier today that only 33% of the people in this country are white men, and yet they hold up to 97% of positions of authority in universities across the country. So I think that until those statistics are evened out, we will always have a race problem.